on the free Odyssey app.
AccuWeather says we're going to get a little rain this morning. We'll hit a high of 72 degrees today. More people get their news from 1010 Winds than from any other radio station in the nation. Madison Petta, our service aide. Fran Blisco, our writer. Jim Maloney's at the editor's desk. I'm Scott Stanford.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Winds at 92.3 FM, New York.
Good morning, 64 degrees. It is 7 o'clock on this Friday, August 30th. I'm Susan Richard. Here's what's happening. Nice weekend or a wash. The word from AccuWeather for the Labor Day holiday coming up. Still no word what caused the house explosion in Flatbush that left 4 people hurt, including several who are critical. Kamala Harris does that sit down on CNN and says, while some policy opinions are different, her values have not changed. A week before school starts, some parents in Perth Amboy now scrambling to figure out how they're going to get their kids to class. We'll tell you why. And what turned out to be a loud balloon prompted a stampede at Disney World. In sports, Mets beat the Diamondbacks. Yanks were off. They open a series with the Cardinals tonight at the stadium. Carlos Alcaraz knocked out of the U.S. Open. AccuWeather today, clouds and some sun, still a shower or two, the high only 72. Winds News Time 7:01. Traffic and transit. Here's Karen Stewart. And we have Karen. All right, looks like we're having a little trouble with that line. We'll get back to that.
Almost gone.
Yep, hard to believe it's our Labor Day weekend, but here we are with the last hurrah of summer. And for those who are not getting away, let's see if the weather's going to cooperate. AccuWeather meteorologist Heather Zaire.
We've been tracking showers and thunderstorms, including some downpours across the area this morning. Those are going to stick around for the morning commute, bringing wet roadways and occasionally poor visibility. However, from midday into tonight, there'll be just a stray shower or two, and tomorrow will dry out with some sun returning. Otherwise, cool weather is on the way for the next couple of days, with highs only in the 70s. More widespread showers and thunderstorms return tomorrow night, then move away early on Sunday. The rest of Sunday will be dry and warm with increasing sun, and it looks sunny and comfortable with low humidity for Labor Day. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Heather Zaire on New York's weather station, 1010 Winds on 92.3 FM.
On the road again.
Our Glenn Chuck with folks hitting the road on the Turnpike.
Parking lot already pretty filled with travelers as I arrived at 4 in the morning here at the Vince. I saw this guy getting gas for his SUV.
So what's your name, please, sir?
Joseph Halstein.
And where did you leave from?
Florida.
Whereabouts?
Newport Richie.
So how's the trip to this point so far?
Good. Very good.
Any issues on the roads? I mean, because they're talking about record travel this week. It is a lot, right?
Yeah, but this is the best day to go.
So where are you headed?
Canada, New Brunswick.
The price at $3.34 for a gallon of regular, about 40 cents lower than last Labor Day weekend. Robert Sinclair with AAA, he says you're going to have a lot of company.
On the 4th of July, more than 70 million, nearly 71 million traveled. Of that, 60 million drove to their destinations, and both those totals were records. And there's no reason to think that the numbers for Labor Day would be much different.
Glenn Schuck, 1010 Winds, 92.3 FM, here at the Jersey Turnpike in Ridgefield.
Backyard barbecues are always super fun, including for the family dog, right? But while you may be tempted to let them partake in the menu, senior ER veterinarian Dr. Carly Fox of the Schwartzman Animal Medical Center says don't.
A lot of barbecue foods are really unsafe for dogs. You want to avoid giving them anything with bones in it. So even like chicken bones, rib bones, those can cause a lot of irritation to their GI tract.
And while corn is not toxic to dogs, the cob itself is completely undigestible.
Probably the most common GI obstruction secondary to food that we see.
Well, do not give your dog onions or grapes, raisins, or chocolate, and no foods containing xylitol. Beyond that, Dr. Fox advises that you keep pets away from loud noises and maybe take advantage of group running events, which your dog, if they are physically up to it, would probably enjoy. 4 people injured, 2 critically, in an explosion at a home in Brooklyn. The blast rocked East 37th Street between Farragut Road and Foster Avenue in Flatbush at around 8:30 last night. His neighbor spoke to CBS 2.
I heard a loud bang. I assumed there was a truck that hit the building, but I saw my neighbor's front door in the middle of the sidewalk, and that was time to get out of there.
FDNY Chief Tom Correo says about 20 FDNY units responded.
Units found 2 victims in the street. There were also 2 that were up on the top floor. They found remnants of an explosion. There were glass all over the street and obvious structural damage.
Well, the concern now is whether the building is stable. The gas to 4 other buildings on the block's been temporarily shut off as a precaution. The cause of this blast is being investigated. Kamala Harris sits down for her first interview since becoming the Democratic presidential nominee. She was joined by running mate Tim Walz.
It was an exclusive interview with CNN, and it covered a wide range of issues, including whether Harris would change U.S. policy toward Israel.
I remain committed since I've been on October 8 to what we must do to work toward a 2-state solution, where Israel is secure and in equal measure the Palestinians have security and self-determination and dignity.
Harris also said as president she would not ban fracking, even as she remains committed to green energy policies.
At Flynda Kenyon, when asked about reversing several policy positions from before she became vice president, Harris said her values have not changed. She also said if elected, she'd be open to putting a Republican on her team.
I have spent my career inviting diversity of opinion. I think it's important to have people at the table when some of the most important decisions are being made that have different views, different experiences. And I think it would be to the benefit of the American public to have a member of my cabinet who was a Republican.
Even before the interview aired, Donald Trump criticized a clip that was released by CNN, including talking about the set for the interview, just around a table. He said this at a town hall in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
She didn't look like a leader to me, I'll be honest. I don't see her negotiating with President Xi of China. I don't see her with Kim Jong-un like we did with Kim Jong-un.
In a statement, the Trump campaign criticized Harris for not, among other things, addressing what the campaign called the crime crisis in this nation. Trump today to speak at the annual Moms for Liberty gathering in D.C. This is a group that has spearheaded efforts to get mentions of LGBTQ plus identity and structural racism out of K through 12 classrooms. Harris will also be in Washington. She'll be receiving briefings and conducting internal meetings with staff. 3 weeks before Donald Trump is sentenced here in New York, his team makes a long shot move.
Attorneys for the former president asked a federal court late Thursday to intervene in Donald Trump's New York hush money criminal case, seeking a pathway to overturn his felony conviction and indefinitely delay his sentencing scheduled for next month. Trump lawyers asked the federal court in Manhattan to seize the case from the state court where it was brought and tried. They argue that the historic prosecution violated Trump's constitutional rights and ran afoul of the U.S. Supreme Court's recent ruling on presidential immunity. They also say that a federal court would provide an unbiased forum free from local hostilities. I'm Norman Hall.
Family members of 9/11 victims with a plea to both presidential candidates that they say has fallen on deaf ears.
It used to be bipartisan to support this country. Now, 23 years later, it's bipartisan to bury your heads in Saudi Arabian sand.
Brett Eagleson is the president of 9/11 Justice, and he lost his father on September 11th. 23 years later, he's at the forefront of a letter signed by more than 3,000 family members of 9/11 victims. They're calling on Vice President Harris and former President Donald Trump to oppose any Middle East peace deal until Saudi Arabia addresses the role it might have played on that heinous day.
We have evidence now staring us in the face of what the FBI calls a Saudi Arabian intelligence asset targeting and casing the United States Capitol in the summer of 1999.
Amanda Alexander, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
Israel to pause some military operations in Gaza starting Sunday. This is to allow hundreds of thousands of children to be vaccinated against polio.
That's after a baby contracted the first confirmed case in 25 years in the Palestinian territory. Rick Pieperkorn is the WHO representative in that area.
Without humanitarian pulses, as we call it at CUN, a campaign delivery, which is already implemented in incredible constrained, complex environments, will not be possible.
The so-called humanitarian pauses will last for at least 3 days in different areas.
We have to stop this transmission in Gaza.
I'm Shelley Adler.
Ukraine looking for more help from the Biden administration in the fight against Russia. Specifically, they want the okay to use U.S.-made long-range weapon systems inside Russian territory.
Ukrainian sources telling us that a special delegation's heading to Washington. Ukraine has priority targets inside Russia. It wants to strike with Western weapons, and what it's trying to do is lobby the White House to lift restrictions. President Zelensky saying this is essential to ending the war, but the U.S. not planning to lift those restrictions at the moment.
That's correspondent Ian Pannell. Meantime, one of the F-16s that we sent to Ukraine has crashed. The Ukrainian Air Force confirms the fighter jet went down on Monday when Russia launched a major missile and drone barrage at Ukraine. They say 4 of those Russian missiles were shot down by F-16s.